So this week we're going to be identifying the priorities by where, which is kind of weird. We're going to do it by plant, and we're going to do it by policy code. And then we're going to look at the cause. This data set is actually easier because typically when I receive these data sets, I have to recode some of the data to make it work. But we were fortunate, so we're going to eliminate kind of a big, confusing step. Last week, we identified outliers and removed them to see what it did to our descriptive statistics, and then we did some trending and forecasting to 2023. That 2023 policy year just started September 1st. We didn't include it in any of our trending or forecasting. I want to call attention to something that, as I was looking at the results from this past week, we're going to need to develop a results table, something that contains everything we would want from our analyses. And then this information here can be transferred to a final tab at the very end, and then we can build one final tab from this information. So I built this. I'm gonna complete this in a future video this week. But right now, I just want you to kind of see that I put it right here. I'll fill it out and I'll play with it before I really help you figure it out. I put it here on my second page. And if you recall, I was excited by the results. You never know what you're going to get until you get it. And when the outliers were removed, our R-square values, which R-squared is like saying correlation. It's like a correlation measure. For our trend lines, went up above 0.8, which is very good, which means it's a more reliable trend. It's not perfect, but it's a more reliable trend to forecast. And so everything's been forecasted to 2023. I don't know if I did that in the last video, but let's forecast a policy year 2023. It started September 1st. It's very young and immature. And so we'll try to guess, we're going to estimate what it's going to be this year if we do nothing. If we do absolutely nothing, the trends should continue as they have been. But we're going to make a recommendation to management that let's invest some money, let's apply some external forces to change these trends. That's the whole principle. So yeah, that was last week. So let's get to this week. This week we're going to investigate and try to prioritize where things have been happening, and then look at how things have occurred, so the causes or the source of injuries, and then prioritize them. And the week after, we will combine those and trend them, and then we'll have our final results. So that's how close we are. So the first thing I want to do is go back to my trending with outliers and copy it. And I'm going to create a new tab, I hope. Oh, there's one. Hit paste. There we go. So this is going to be, okay, let's look at the data, shall we? See what we have as far as location. It would be great if there was a department or a job title. But, okay, so we have an occupation. But how many empty things do we have? Well, there's some missing information here. And it would be difficult for us to guess at what it might be. So, yeah, and it doesn't look like it's very standardized. I mean, if there was just like one or two, we might be able to get by with it. There's a lot of assemblers. I think there's assembly and assemblers. So that's not a standardized term, so I don't want to use that. Let's see what else we have. We've got the class code. We will use that. We'll use that as a breakdown. We will also break it down by its most simplest, and that is by site. That's just 2 sites. Not great, but that'll be really easy to do. But what's interesting is once we create the table, it can be used for everything for prioritizing. It might be interesting to look at by type. I should really get a breakdown of the number of medicals versus incident. I assume when it says incident, it is a 0. Yep. Let's see if we could find another one. Indemnity means it receives some lost pay incident. It is also, oh, $7. Interesting. Incident. And it's miscellaneous. It doesn't help much, does it? Where else did I see that? Okay, any other incident? And maybe I'll spend some time at the end of this week just looking at this, and that's a $0. So they give it incident if it's very low or almost nothing, medical if it's medical only, indemnity if they received lost wages, or possibly the disability payoff to close it out. Yeah, okay. So we're in sheet 3. I'm going to move the sheet 3 beyond. What we're going to do is we're going to start out by, we're going to do priority by site. Well, no, because, well, I think maybe we'll just kind of break it down just so I can show you. So priority, I'll just say by site. Kind of doing things a little differently. Okay. So we've got, let's see, we've got a lot of information down here. We don't need this stuff at this point, so I'm going to delete it. I am going to keep this, and you see I added another line called annual average, and so I took the average. Here, I'll click on this. It's another thing that we're going to be looking at later, and so I'm trying to kind of get better insight into things. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a count, a percent count, and then add up the totals, get a total, get an average, do a risk priority number, and then prioritize. And so I'm going to start 1 over from where we were. And this is going to be, okay, so this is going to be count. This is going to be percent count. This is going to be paid medical all the way down to here. I'm sorry, there's going to be a percent total paid. I'll explain it in a minute. And then we're going to do average per claim. Then we're going to do RPN. And then we're going to do priorities. All right, let's try to get these. Format painter. It worked. Format painter. And now what we have to do is we're going to do by site. We only have 2 sites. We have M and P. MP. I did alphabetical. Let's bring this over. Format painter. Very pretty. Let's see, the M and P. So this isn't really going to be a prioritization. It's more of a breakdown. It's under column H. All right. The percent count will be just basically the count divided by the total. The paid medical, we're in S. And so that's why I kept it. That's why I kept it the way I did, really. Try to align everything up. All right. So once we type this all in, though, it's going to become something that we can continue to use if we're careful. And I'll show you that. So we're going to go equal count if H2 to H251, comma. I would like to click on that cell, but it's blocked. And so I'm going to type it in. It's just basically P285. How did I do that? Well, I looked up and I went P285, hit return. There's 72. I block the, or freeze the rows, so when I click and drag it down, there. Let's find out if we have everything. Oh, equal sum. Pretty sure it got them both. 250, we got it. So percent count is simply equal to this number divided by the total. I think I'm just going to type in 250. Center it, turn it into a percent. There we go. Drag it all the way down. So the way it looks here is that over 70% are at the P or Poinet, under 30% are at the Madison. So for the paid medical, we go equal sum if. We got to put in the first criteria, which is the site. That's the determinant. So H2 to H251, comma, the criteria is the site. And I click on it, so when I drag it down, it'll pick the P. And then the other thing I wanted to add up is if an M is in that column, then in this other column, add it up. And that is S2 to S251. I will center it, turn it into currency, get rid of the pennies, and now I have to do some work. So I want to drag it down and then I want to drag it over. So I want to, when it goes down one, I want to make sure that that's frozen, and when I go left to right, I actually want that not to move either. So I'm going to freeze the column that has the site in it. I need it to go up and down, but I need to stay in that column, and so I'm going to hit in front of the P, and then for the last one, I want it to go left or right, I'm sorry, when I move it right, but I want the columns to stay the same. So now I click it down one, and I click it and drag it over, equals sum. And I'm saying, you're probably thinking sum, I could just type in this plus that. Yes, you can, but I always kind of do it this way. And do we have the correct numbers? That matches, that matches, that matches, that matches. We're good. We can always compare it to something we've already done and verified. Percent total is equal to this amount divided by, I'm going to type it in, 1743740. And that's supposed to be a percentage, not currency. Center it. I'll do the same thing. Yeah. So this is interesting. So even though for the Madison or the M site, the count is under 30, the total paid is higher. So the Madison plan is experiencing more expensive claims. That's what that means. Whereas the Poinette is taking the balance of it. What's the average per claim? Well, obviously it's going to be higher for Madison. If there's more like variables, it becomes more evident. I'm gonna drag it all the way down and see what we got. So Madison's average is higher. The risk priority number is equal to the percent count multiplied by the percent total paid. You always have to remove decimal points. Oh, you probably could leave that. You only do it there. So based on this analysis, priority would be to focus on Poinette first and then Madison because of the quantity that they represent. So it's they have more of the count and they have more of the total paid. So therefore their RPN is higher. So if you ever do any sort of risk analysis and you assign a probability and a severity, this is essentially our probability. This is our severity. It's not perfect, but it's representative. It's a proxy. And that's how I get my RPN. So risk is equal to probability times severity. Do you see how I did that? And it's a priority number. You're just supposed to rank with it. That's all it means, is the rank. This is a very simplified analysis because we only have 2 sites. But this is what we're going to do. This same table is going to be filled out for everything we want to focus on. Okay, so I'm going to first save my work, file, save as. I hope you've all come up with some form of language to store your work. So I'm going to put week 3. I'm going to type in priorities by site. Not great, but that's what I'll keep. So I've saved my work. Hopefully you guys are doing that. We should do it with and without, right? By site. Oh, what am I doing here? By site with outliers. And then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to save that. I'm going to highlight this, copy it, go to a new tab. Oh. Shouldn't be... Okay, I'm going to take my time. Okay, it worked. Now, how do I get rid of the outliers, you may ask? Well, we've done it before. I'm going to highlight the top row. First, I'm going to zoom in for you. Highlight the top row, go to Data and Filter. I'm going to sort by total paid, high to low, largest to smallest. See, all my outliers are right here. So here's what I get to do. I can highlight those rows, hit Control X to cut, go down below. I'm going to paste them. Actually, I think my thing is still notified where I had put it before. So then I'm going to go back up here. Everything will be changed. So now what does it look like with the outliers removed? Let's look at some of the numbers and see if they match up, shall we? So we've got 235, 475, do you see how they've now all automatically updated? And I really hope you're amazed by that. All right, let's see how much it's changed. Let's see here. So the breakdown is still about a 1 to 2, 1 to 2 ratio. Here it has changed, hasn't it? I mean, the total's 94%, the total's 37%. I like to do it that way because I like to modify it based on the originals. The average per claim, it's now lower for Madison. RPN is much lower. So what happened, you guys? If I didn't know anything about the outliers, if we just go, it took out the top 15, and before it was more expensive, what did we learn? That Madison had more outliers, or a greater amount, greater percent than Poinette, because when we remove those 15, Madison now, their average is down, their total paid is down from a comparison wise. So if we go down here and look, and we had done this analysis before, just so you know, but this just kind of brought it home. Madison, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the top 5 most expensive outliers were from Madison, or the M site. One of them is reopened. Really? Oh, that's the Poinette. Poinette is reopened. The Madison ones are all... Oh, no, one Madison one is still opened. It occurred 10/31. Okay. And that amount is 71,000. New, 97,000. So Madison had the highest amount, but then they also have all these 90s. So originally with the outliers in, we would, it showed that, we should really focus on Madison. When people get hurt there, it's more expensive. But it's based on 1, 2, 3, 4 claims over 5 years out of 250 claims had that much influence. I want that to sink in with you. That's why we look at outliers and remove them and do the analysis with and without. That's why we do it. The automated dashboards that everybody pays hundreds of $1,000s for in order to track and report their injuries, it doesn't do that. Why doesn't it do that? Because they're taking a shortcut and they assume that the injury data it meets that normal assumption, that it has that bell curve, but it doesn't. We've seen it. So even though some of their information is still usable and correct, not all of it is. It's biased to the point where it's incorrect or misleading. That's why this technique doesn't lie. It lets the data tell you what's really going on based on the characteristics of them. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking out my rear, but for me, I'd rather have a more honest idea so that I am actually focusing on what needs to versus what I think would have to just because I didn't really look at the data close enough. I hope that helps everybody. All right, let's go to the next thing. Maybe that'll be more interesting for everybody. I'm going to save my work. So I'm going to bring the with outliers data set. I always start with that, and then I remove it manually. Copy, new tab. I don't know why this is taking so long. I'm getting worried. I don't know if it's because my Excel is getting too big or what. So now what we're going to do is is it class code? Yep, by class code with outliers. So the outliers are back in. You probably can't see it because I got to blow it up. But here, okay, this is beautiful, everybody. What's about to happen? This is why I love Excel. I'm going to show you. All right, so I'm just going to copy this and then update it. So I'm going to copy. I'm just going to leave 2 spaces. I'll just leave 2 spaces for now. I can always add them. Now we're not going to do site. We're going to do class code. Sorry. Oh, and we get to do one more thing that's really exciting. We got to see what the class code row is. Here it is. It's P. Smells like R. Kelly sheets. Piss. But it was 99 cents. So now we got to get all of the different class codes. And there's different ways to do it. You can do it manually, or we can do it using pivot tables. You're probably thinking, pivot tables, I've heard of that. People have told me about that. So we should manipulate the master, but we're really not doing it by what I'm about to do. So I'm going to highlight the master, and then I'm going to go up to insert, and I'm going to do pivot table. See, it's over here on the left. And I'm just going to do this, and it's highlighting everything, all the data that I have here, and I'm going to do it in a new worksheet. So I didn't molest the master. I just had the master generate this pivot table. Now what I can do is I can go and find out very easily the different class codes that are there. And how do I do that? Well, I'm going to filter by, let's see, I'm not going to filter. My row is going to be class code. It's going to tell me for class code, what are all the different types? Here they are. These are the only types of entries. I'll zoom in for crying out loud. If I click on it, that side thing will come up. Now, if I want to know the count, I could, for a column, I didn't put in my other stuff yet, did I? Because this is the raw data. I could do total paid, though it's the company's total paid. If I was to put that in a column, nope, that's not what I wanted. I wanted under values. There we go. So that's the amounts. And I can change it. Is it a sum or a count? Value field setting, it is the sum. Yeah, okay. I could maybe put in the count. Let's see what happens when I put in count. Okay, so this is what we're going to be calculating here in a little bit. But this isn't good enough because these are not really numbers. This is how do I say this? This is like a calculator with numbers in it. You can't really use it. But here's what we can do. We can copy, and there's no blanks, which is nice. I can copy this and then head on over to what I was working on. And I realized that may have been really quick and confusing. And I mean, we're going to use it again later. But that's the easiest way because you can do it manually, but it takes a lot of time. How do I... Okay, I'm a little lost here. Where is my thing that allows me to move over? Oh, there it is. A little confused there. Lost my, what do you call that? The slider? Oh, that's a pitch. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to quick define my table. And this is going to be total. Okay, now this is the fun part. I'm going to take this all the way down to there, hit copy, and then I'm going to hit paste. Now what I need to do is, before it was H, now I got to put in P. So I'm going to go P and P, and then it did it for me. That's still 250? It is still 250. Yep. Go over here. Instead of H, it's supposed to be P. But everything else is correct. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to click and drag these all the way to there. I'm going to click this and go down. And then I'm going to run this over. And this already this updated for me already. So I can click these and drag it down. Do you see what I did? And now I'll have to add it up. I'll type it in though. Equals sum. I used to type this. I used to type everything in like that. I did. I used to type it all in. This should be 100%, by the way. What? Custom? What does that mean? I want it to be percent. Or yeah. Okay. Oh, that was weird. For some reason, this cell was weirdly corrupted. I fixed it though. All right, let's do this. Equals sum. Whenever something weird comes up, first I look to see that if the cell is properly coded. And then I'll look, like I was playing with it before and I found that I mistyped the function. Okay, are these numbers correct? Yes, they all are. Let's go equal sum. This hopefully is 100%. I don't know. No, it's a dollar amount. Let's go to percentage. Get rid of the bold. Must be bold here too. Get rid of it. Delete. Drag this down to see what the overall average is. Still equals. All right, so now I've got my risk priority number by class code. Now what I want to do is I want to sort so that the priorities can... Now we can look, it's a small group here. So we know this is number 1, it's the highest number. We know that this is number 2. We know this is number 3. But sometimes it's nice, at least for the reader, to be able to see 1, 2, 3 on the top. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight all the data here. I'm going to go up to data and sort. And okay, so there, it took away my header row. So I need to do this by Y. And I go highest to lowest. And now see, 1, 2, 3. It did it for me. It kept everything else good. So now the next question is we're going to do the Pareto ratio. We're getting near the end here, ladies and gentlemen. So just hold on. So let's look at the top two. Top two priorities equals, and I'm just going to add them. Up and at them. Okay, and I'm just going to add it up. And I'll show you why in a moment. Don't do the average. Don't do the RPN. It doesn't count. I always like to keep my units proper. This, and it's a curse from my engineering training. We always had, this is the first thing we had to do whenever we did analysis, make sure the units are properly labeled. It's ingrained into me. Okay, so here's the thing. So two out of, let's see how many are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, what the dates? Is that what that is? I just want numbers. And not even that kind of number. General. And that, and small. So there are 7 numbers. The top 2. What percent are 2? 2 divided by 7. So funny. I think when I copied and pasted the outliers down below, I think it kept what the cell was designated as. That's why it's doing this to me. All right, so 28.6% of the class codes represent 66.8% of the total claims and 77.23% of the total paid. Do you remember what the Pareto ratio was? Pareto principle? The precious few, the insignificant many? So 2 class codes account for over 2/3 of all the claims and over 77% of all the benefits awarded. That is close enough to a Pareto, the 80-20. So what that means is, we may look at this as well, but as you can see, the numbers are significantly lower. I mean, really, 1 is amazing. That's the one we'll probably spend the most amount of time on. We'll see what's going on here. Depending on time goes, we may look at 4, 8, 4, 4. The rest, these are the insignificant many class codes. They don't represent as much. There may be stuff there that's interesting, but we need to prioritize. We can't look at everything all the time. We need to tell management where we should focus to get the biggest bang for their buck, the biggest return for their investment. And that's where we're going to focus. This is an incredible finding. This is what management wants. Don't tell them, I think we should hire someone to fix overexertion injuries. Where? Doing what? And why? Well, we're narrowing it down to certain types of work that's going on. And actually, if I was to break this down, what does 1 out of 7 equal? You've just got to be kidding me. I'm just doing this for the sake of discussion. So 14.3% of the class codes represent 48% of all the claims and 52% of the total paid. When we remove the outliers, this will become a little bit more interesting, right? So save my work, highlight the page, copy it, new tab. And I don't know why this takes so long. I'm just going to be patient. It might be because I've got something going on in the background. I don't know. And this is where I'm going to blow it up a little so you can see it. This is the last step for this video. For those of you who are like, I gotta go to the bathroom. All right, data filter. We're going to filter from high to low, largest to smallest. We're going to say sayonara to the outlier claims. Again, I'm Control X to cut. Put them down here, paste. Everything automatically updated. So let's see what changed. Are you kidding me? Look at that. Look at that. When the outliers are removed, that is crazy. What does that mean? That means that some expensive claims happen to the class code 3179, which means I would assume that they would have higher policy rates. That's what we're going to look up yet. Yes. Now I recall. Oh, this is really interesting. I mean, we ideally want to use these results as we move forward because they're more conservative. Let's make sure the numbers all match up. Oh, geez, I was looking at the wrong numbers. Those match up. Okay, this is the top two. Now, okay, so you're looking at it. Okay, so we got rid of so it's still 28% or 28.5% of the class codes, but now it's 61.6% of 94. So we need to do a modification. What we do is we click what it is and divide it by the new amount. And it's not a perfect representation. It's just a modified. Get rid of some of the... What? I wonder if... I gotta turn that into a percentage first. That's all I had to do. Okay, so that is 65. What was it before? It was 66.8. Let's see. So it changed a little bit. The other representation is this 23. What does that really mean? It's the 23.76 divided by the 37. I gotta turn that into a percentage. Center it. Get it the bold up. So it's 63. What was it before? It was 77. So do we have a perfect... No, it's not a perfect Pareto. We don't have the 80-20. We have like a 30-60. But in the real world, you try to find good cutoff points. And I think this is still a good cutoff point. Still... The 14% right here represents, well, I would have to take 44 divided by 94. Would it increase it by 4%? So it's close to 50. And this 16 divided by this, it's almost half, just under half. But this is interesting. Actually, with the outliers removed, it should be 2 and 3. There isn't a drastic drop between these two, 0.159, 0.122. That's not big. 7.4 down to 1 point, that's big. So we could just focus on one, but I still think, look how close the total paids are. The number of claims are quite different. Total pay, or the average per claim is a little bit different too. Interesting stuff. Now, what I'd really like to do is take these class codes and play with them by looking it up on the WCRB. Do you guys remember that? Remember the WCRB? Let's see here. So, WCRB in Cincinnati. If you guys get that, you're as old as I am. Class code. Oh, the class code lookup was right there. All right. Let's zoom this in a little bit. Let's see what kind of numbers we can get. I may not do all the work because it's getting a little bit long. So let's take a look at 3076. So this is our most frequent. And is it our most expensive? From an average, it's second. So not crazy, but this is also with the outliers removed. It was number 1 both times. So let's take a look. See what it is too, right? Search. Wow, it's a lot of stuff. Fireproof equipment. What? It's a lot of stuff. Anyway, so let's get some of this information. I'm gonna copy We've got 17, right? Yeah, we really don't need the minimum premium, but go back. Oof, dude, what are you doing? Why are you copying so huge? So what we can do is, want to kind of compare these things. So this will be the rate. Let's see, should I start now and then go down? Yeah, I'll do that. So this would be the 2023 rate, 2022 rate, 2021 rate, 20 rate, 19 rate, 18 rate, and then a 2017 rate. Maybe a better way to set this up. I don't know. Right now I'm just kind of seeing what's going on here. And I'm just going to look on here and just type in the dollar amounts. Why don't I go ahead and turn all these into currency to make it easier on me? There we go. Let's see what happens. So if I go 2.42, hey, how about that? Catch me outside. How about that? All right, let's go 2.91, 3.11, 3.42, 3.49. Now, where do these rates come from? This comes from historical data, and it's set up based on the amount of medical paid, the amount of indemnity paid for this type of classification. So they get all the payroll stuff for these guys. They break it all out. There's an expectation of how much is going to be used, and then they build in these rates. So the rate here times by the payroll assigned to 3076 divided by 100, that's their contribution to the base premium. That's what this stuff is used for. So these actually represent, based on per $100 payroll, how much the insurance organizations think that a company should pay. And, so the higher the amount, the more they expect it to pay, the more claims. So this is our number one. And what has it been doing? It's been coming, it went down and went down and went down, and went down and went down. So it's come down considerably. How much has it come down since 2017? Well, let's take a look. Equals. And then what I can do is the quantity of the 2017 minus the 2023, and that's all divided by the 2017. That should be a percentage. Or should I subtract it the other way? I guess what we'd want to say is it's decreased by 34.8%. How does that sound? Should we just boop? So that's a decrease. So it's gone down that much. And when you think about it, compared to how it affected the policy, that's a savings right there, ladies and gentlemen, unless the payroll, the amount this group gets paid, went up. So that would be interesting. How much is their pay going up each year? If it's going up by, 10%, well, that's where that accounted from, probably. Should we do another one? I'm going to do the next two, just for the fun of it, and I'll do the other ones on my own. New search. That was an odd. Okay, so these have a little bit, fewer here. I'm going to do a control paste, effective date down to 17. Copy it. Go back. Paste. Oh, it's huge. The thing is, I don't need this other one now, so I'm just going to delete it. It didn't have any markings on it. All right, so we'll start here again. 1.82, so this is even lower. 2.10, 2.2, 2.3, 2.49. Oh, sorry, I was spatially confused. And the last one is 280. So this one started at a lower amount. Let's see how much it changed. It went down 35%. Pretty even. Pretty even. I'm going to do this one now. Copy 4484. I almost hit print page. That would have been fun. Okay. Go down to 2017 only. I didn't really look at the minimum amount. I assume it's all somewhat similar. This is minimum amount is higher because that's higher. Yeah. All right. 2.17, 2.32, 2.52, 2.72, 2.86, 3.26, 3.47. So this one started lower and is lower. So there was no drastic change. This one dropped the most. So what does this all mean? So this was our 2, now it's a 3. So this had some expensive outliers. But the numbers themselves, the count is, it's second. And I think it was second before on count. Would that be about right to assume? It was. Doesn't happen as frequently, but it is more expensive. But this really doesn't reflect it. So the company is actually getting a deal. Obviously this accounts for the most. This is the highest. That's maybe why. Maybe if we were just focused on 3076 and we could really bring down their amounts, maybe that would, be the greatest savings. But so this is the, how many years? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6-year change. Yeah. So that's the, as far as who we're going to focus on. I may on my own take a look at some of the job titles to see if it teases out, and maybe I'll come back and kind of show you. Maybe we'll get something out of that. But for right now, knowing who we're going to be focusing on, because we kind of know which building they're working in, or there should be assignments within the plants that we could draw from this. That's really what it is. So please finish the rest of this, figure out what the changes are. Just interesting to look at. But but the reason for this is just so you get a better understanding that if we had the payroll amount for each of these, we would multiply the payroll. We divide the payroll by 100, multiply it times this, and then add up each one, and that would be our base premium. That's the base amount. In order to get our adjusted premium, or the amount we pay, the adjusted premium is equal to the base times by the EMR. And we are able to affect the EMR by doing aggressive case management to try to keep the claims. It'd be nice to keep them to medical only, because then the amounts paid in that claim count towards the EMR at a 30% rate versus 100% if it's indemnified. That's stuff that Jim was talking about. It's important. And if you look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, it really calls itself out, because in private industry, the only rate that was higher than government was the restricted transfer rate. That restricted transfer rate is the work comp claims, primarily, because it's the people who come back to work with doctors' restrictions. And sometimes those become indemnified if the company isn't willing to pay them their regular wages versus a modified rate because they're working restricted. Or those can start out as lost time because they're recovering for a while and then they come to work later. So that's why that one Bureau of Labor Statistics statistic comparison, whatever, is the most accurate and most related to the work comp. All right, we're already at 44 minutes. I'm going to stop this. In the next video, we're going to look at the sources or the causes.